I served in the United States military for 7 years. I bled for this country in Vietnam and in Kuwait. I paid more than $218,000 in taxes. I raised 3 American sons. And on October 14, 2015, they put me in handcuffs in a parking lot in Illinois and sent me back to Colombia like I was nothing. Let me tell you what it's like to be deported by the same army that gave you a Purple Heart. But let me start at the beginning. I was born in Apartado, Antioquia, Colombia. Banana country. Dust and heat and the smell of something always rotting sweet in the air. My father cut bananas for the United Fruit Company, an American company even back then. In 1971, he was selected for an agricultural work program in Homestead, Florida. He took me and my older brother Gilberto with him as dependents. My mother Florinda stayed behind with my 3 younger sisters. I was 14 years old. The morning we left, she was washing dishes. The truck came earlier than expected, and she came to the door still holding the wet cloth, still wearing her apron. White background, yellow daisies. She held my face in both hands, the cloth still damp on my cheek, and she said quietly, almost a whisper, "Lolo, vuelve pronto." Come back soon. I nodded. I went. I didn't come back until I was 58 years old. We arrived in Homestead through the front door. A legal visa, stamped documents. My father holding my hand through customs at Miami International. The irony of this whole story is that I entered legally at 14 with every paper in order. My father went back to Colombia in March of 1972, as agreed. Gilberto stayed because he had an American girlfriend. I stayed because I was 15 and had nowhere else to go. Our visas expired in April of 1972. We didn't go after anyone to renew them. And just like that, not with drama, not with a decision, just with silence and time, I became undocumented. In September of 1972, a military recruiter came through Homestead. He knew I was undocumented. That was common practice back then. He signed me up for the 82nd Airborne Division. I was 16. The Army gave me conditional permanent resident status, tied to my service, and a legitimate Social Security number. I paid taxes from that first military paycheck, every year, without fail, for 43 years. Here's the thing. They promised citizenship. I served. I bled. I buried men I knew. And the citizenship never came. The I-485 form from 1972 had a classification error that nobody corrected. A green card was issued in 1984. I carried it for 31 years, renewed it, showed it every time someone needed proof. I'll tell you what happened to it later. I went to Vietnam in 1973 at 16 years old. The heat there is different from any heat you know. It sticks to you, gets inside your ears, inside everything. I was infantry and field interpreter. I spoke Spanish and English, and that made me useful in ways I hadn't anticipated. There was a day I had to translate an interrogation. A Vietnamese man, maybe 40, crying throughout the whole thing. I kept my face flat. That's what you learn to do. When it was over, I walked behind a cluster of bamboo and cried for 2 minutes. Then I went back. Nobody saw. That habit, holding everything inside, I carried for 52 years. I served until 1976, honorable discharge, and moved to Chicago to be near Gilberto. Factory work, painting, truck driving, every job documented, every dollar on a W-2. I met Patricia Ann Kowalski in 1981. She knocked on my door to complain about the radio being too loud. I opened the door. She looked at me for 3 seconds. I invited her for coffee. She stayed 3 hours. We got married in 1983 and had 3 boys. Armando in 1984, Gilberto in 1988, and Damian in 1991. In October of 1985, I lost my right thumb to a sheet metal guillotine at a factory on the south side, just to the first joint. It never went into my military records. When I shake someone's hand, they look down surprised. I've gotten used to it. In 1985, I started working for the Illinois Toll Highway Authority, collecting tolls at the I-294 booth near Mannheim Road in Bellwood. 5:30 to 2 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, for 30 years. 12 years of perfect attendance certificates. My photo was on the wall at the main office in Downers Grove. My supervisor, Harold Messner, German-American, retired in 2010. I gave his retirement speech. 8 minutes from memory in front of 40 colleagues in English. Harold cried. My co-worker Darnell Washington and I played dominoes every lunch break for 15 years. These were my people. In 1990, the Gulf War started. I was 33, with 2 sons and a wife in Chicago. I re-enlisted because the Army was a thing I knew how to do. And look, I'll be honest, I still believe that serving again would finally deliver the citizenship they had promised. I deployed to Kuwait with the 82nd Airborne. On February 24, 1991, our armored vehicle rolled. My left shoulder absorbed the impact. 3 men were trapped. I held position alone for 18 minutes while they got out. With a broken shoulder, 1 hand, no backup. 18 minutes. I thought about Armando Jr., who was 6. I thought about Gilberto, who was 3. I did not think about the shoulder. When the 3 men were safe, I went down. The Purple Heart came 6 weeks later. The corrective surgery for the shoulder never came. The VA denied full treatment for 3 years because my naturalization paperwork was still under review. My shoulder still drops 2 centimeters on the left. Every time I raise my arm, the bone pops. Every day since 1991. Do you know what it's like to earn something like that? To cover 3 men's retreat with a broken shoulder, receive a medal for it, and then be told your paperwork isn't in order, so you'll have to wait for the surgery. Can you imagine? I came back from Kuwait in 1993. Separated from Patricia in 2006. By 2015, I was living alone at 3847 West Hurst Street in Humboldt Park. Same address for 22 years. I grew cilantro in a pot on the kitchen windowsill. I had a Toyota Corolla, navy blue. Friday nights at La Paloma Cantina on North Avenue. One Corona. One shot of Colombian aguardiente the owner kept special for me. Sundays on the phone with my boys. Let me tell you about a morning in 2008 first, because it matters for what comes next. I was driving to work on the I-290. Routine checkpoint. An officer stopped the car, saw the name Restrepo on my license and said, loud, slowly, the way people talk when they assume you don't understand, "Do you speak English, sir?" I had the Illinois Toll Highway Authority emblem on my car. I had worked there for 23 years. I answered in perfect English and told him exactly who I was. He turned red, said, "Have a good day," and walked away. I sat in that car for 2 minutes before I could put it in drive. Hands sweating, face burning. I wanted to say, I covered a military retreat with a broken shoulder so men like you could stand here and do this. But I said nothing. Kept the face flat. Never told anyone. And that fear, the fear of being noticed, of being pulled from line, of something being used against you, that fear is what kept me from chasing the naturalization in 2009 when a lawyer told me I might have a case. I thought, I have the card. I have the record. I'm fine. Don't attract attention. Something went wrong anyway. October 14th, 2015, Wednesday, 7:47 in the morning. I pulled into the headquarters parking lot in Downers Grove. The October sky was that gray Chicago doesn't fall. The gray that could go blue if you wait. I got out of the Corolla with my folder of documents for the contract renewal meeting. I saw 3 men in blue vests, 2 local officers behind them. One stepped forward. "Sir, are you Eulogio Restrepo?" I said yes. "Sir, that green card has been determined to be invalid. Please come with us." I looked at the card in my own hand. Same card since 1984. Same serial number. Renewed in 2010. My dog tag shifted against my chest. I still wear them, always. And I heard them move. That small sound. I closed my hand around the card and thought, without meaning to, I earned this. I said, I have served in this army for 7 years. This card has been valid since 1984. I have a meeting in that building in 13 minutes. The agent said, "Sir, please come with us. Can I at least call my supervisor? You can call from the facility." Training took over. The brain flattens everything so you can function. I was calm. I was precise. I put the folder down. I walked with them. When the car door closed, the calm broke and everything came back at once. The folder stayed on the parking lot ground. A colleague picked it up. The meeting happened without me. They approved the contract anyway. I found out months later. I was taken to the Jerome Combs Detention Center in Kankakee, Illinois. 4 months and 12 days. 6 people per cell. Food worse than Vietnam field rations. I mean that exactly. Damien hired an immigration attorney with $4,500 of his own money. She appealed twice. She presented my Purple Heart, my full service record, 43 years of tax returns, totaling $218,000. The judge called the case compelling, but outside remedial scope under current statutes. When Damien explained what that meant, I said, okay. Just that. Okay. The reason the green card was invalidated. The 1972 form had a classification error. I had entered on an H-2 dependent visa, not as a direct applicant. And the 1984 processing didn't correct the underlying status. 43 years later, they determined the card had technically been invalid since its issuance. And as an aggravating factor, they used a bar fight from 1987. Disorderly conduct, simple battery, a $340 fine, 40 hours of community service, case closed. What they didn't know, what I never told them because I was ashamed, is that the fight was in defense of my daughter Lorena, who was 3 years old and sitting with me at the bar. She was from a relationship before Patricia. I didn't want Patricia to find out. That shame from 1987 became part of what destroyed everything in 2015. Some things you pay for years later. On February 26, 2016, one day before the deportation flight, my sons came to Jerome Combs. Armando Jr. drove from Fort Bragg starting at 3 in the morning. He arrived in his military uniform. He said he didn't know what to wear, and the uniform was what felt right. When I saw him walk through that door in his uniform, I stopped. 2 seconds. Then I opened my arms. Gilberto came from Houston, mostly quiet the whole time. At the end, he said, "Dad, I'm going to build something with your name on it one day." I said, "Just be good." Damian came with the attorney, still holding papers, still convinced there was one more appeal. There wasn't. He looked at me for a long time. He said, "Bye. We're going to bring you back." I answered in Spanish, "Mijo, take care of your brothers." Patricia didn't come. She sent a handwritten letter. The guard let it through. I've never told anyone what it said. I put it in my boot. I still have it. Last image of my sons. Armando Jr. in his uniform. Gilberto in a suit that looked too new. Damian in his professor's jacket with a worn elbow. They waved. I didn't try to memorize it. It didn't leave anyway. February 27th, 2016. O'Hare International Airport. The same airport I passed through dozens of times in 44 years. Plastic zip ties on my wrists until boarding. Aisle seat. Empty window beside me. When we lifted off over Chicago, I looked down and tried to find Humboldt Park from the air. I couldn't. I'm in Apartado now, the same city I left at 14. The smell of bananas identical. The streets are unrecognizable. I live in 2 rooms in my brother Gilberto's house, a bed too short for me. On the wall, 34 printed photos of my grandchildren, my dog tags, the 82nd Airborne cap that Armando Jr. sent by mail in 2021, the only gift I've received from my son since the deportation. A map of the United States that Damian sent, with the cities circled in pen: Chicago, Fayetteville, Houston, Los Angeles. I look at that map every morning. I work nights at a warehouse, $340 a month. I earn $3,100 in Chicago. Armando Jr. calls every Sunday. We talk about Marcus, his boy 12 years old, who just won a swimming trophy. We talk about Aaliyah, 9 years old, who calls me Abuelo Lolo and mispronounces it. I cry after every call ends. Gilberto sends $300 a month without fail and designs bridges in Houston. He sent me a photo of one of his projects. I look at it every day. Damian calls Tuesdays and Thursdays. He teaches high school history in East LA, Vietnam, the Gulf War, American soldiers who were deported. He uses my case as a study without saying my name. I figured it out from how he describes the example. I've never told him I know. I have 3 grandchildren, Marcus, Aaliyah, Sophia. All 3 were born after the deportation. I have never met any of them in person. I have 34 photos on the wall. In the last video call, Sophia, Gilberto's daughter, 8 years old, asked why her grandfather lives in the telephone. I didn't answer that one. Have you ever thought about what it cost to be the kind of immigrant I was? Not the kind who disappears, the kind who enlisted, who bled on orders, who paid every dollar in taxes, who went back when the country called again at 33 with 2 children waiting at home, who showed up to work for 30 years with a perfect attendance record, who built a life year by year, and then watched 3 agents in blue vests walk toward him across a parking lot. I sent $187,000 to my family in Colombia over 39 years. I paid $218,000 in U.S. taxes. I never used food stamps, never used Medicaid. I want to tell you something Harold Messner said. Harold was my supervisor at the tollway for 25 years. At his retirement party, after I gave his speech, he took the microphone and pointed at me in front of everyone. He said, "Lolo, you're more American than most people born here. And that's exactly why you belong here." The room applauded. I thought about that sentence for years. I thought Harold was completely right. He was right about what matters. And he was wrong about what decides. Because I am American. I built an American life, raised American sons who serve in American uniforms today. My son Armando serves in the 82nd Airborne Division, the same division that recruited his father in 1972. He wears the same patch. But the system, the forms, the statutes, the classifications did not agree. A form processed wrong in 1972. A bar fight from 1987 used as ammunition 28 years later. 44 years of belonging, and none of it was enough. The document and the place are not the same thing. I belonged. The paper failed. Do not confuse the two. For anyone who is undocumented, or has paperwork pending, or has been telling yourself you'll deal with it tomorrow, deal with it today. An error from 1972 came from me in 2015. These things find you. For anyone who was born American and has never had to prove it, there are men who wore your flag, took your orders, bled in your name, and were expelled by a bureaucratic mistake, while their sons continued to serve. Ask yourself what American means to you. Then ask why it means something different to the system. My name is Elohio Armando Restrepo Castaño. I'm 68 years old. I'm from Apartado, Antioquia, Colombia. I spent 44 years in the United States. I still wear my dog tags every day. Not because I'm proud of the country that expelled me, because I'm proud of what I did. Those are different things. And no one will take the second from me because they took the first. If this story needs to be heard, and I believe it does, share it. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this. And leave me this in the comments. If a man served in the U.S. military, paid over $200,000 in taxes, raised 3 American sons, and was deported because of a form processed wrong in 1972, who is the American in that story? Think about it.